which is really helpful when we're using Faser Beam. Right there, we just hit 11.6 million damage solo. In solo. How's it going, everybody? Chadley here, and in today's video I'm bringing you a new Pyromancer build, and this one is going to be focused on the Faser Beam skill, and also this is going to be partially a debuff build as well. So if you guys are playing co-op, you can help out your team, but also by yourself you guys are going to be dealing some crazy amounts of damage. In solos I was hitting almost 10 mil occasionally if I got my combos correct and the right enemies, so the damage potential is incredibly high. I have almost one hit Dr. Detonator solo, which is pretty ridiculous. And a fantastic part about this build as well is that it is incredibly tanky, especially for a AP pyro build. So you guys should have pretty much no trouble surviving. As long as you have things on fire, you should be good to go and you won't really have issues. Now, if you do get in the middle of, like, say 4 breachers and like 20 riflemen, you're gonna die. That's just how this game works. But for the most part, as long as you have people on fire, you're gonna be good to go and you're gonna have no issues. But otherwise, if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a thumbs up on it to let me know. Also consider subscribing if you do enjoy it. Also consider stopping by Twitch because I stream basically every single day. I'd love to hang out with you guys. But otherwise, let's go ahead and jump right into this build video. So we're going to start off with our skills with this build. So we are going to be using Heat Wave for the debuffs and Akari stacks, Thermal Bomb for the debuffs, and also it's actually gets some pretty decent ad clear as well, at least when these two other skills are on cooldown. And then finally, obviously, what this build is going to be focusing on is Faser Beam. And as you guys can see, it has a 5.3 second cooldown, which is pretty nutty, and you guys are going to be constantly spamming this. This is fantastic for single target as well as ad clear. You're going to be killing elites in basically one shot all the time, and then you're also going to be killing whole hordes at the same time as well. But pretty much all you're going to do with your combos with this build is do your heat waves, and then if there's a single target that you need to kill, focus Thermal Bomb on them, and then follow it up with the Faser Beam. Also with this build, if you guys are spamming your Faser Beam, you're going to be dealing even more damage. I will get to that in the mod section. But overall, like I said, you guys are going to be hitting for millions upon millions of damage, and overall, this combo is pretty nutty. But moving on over to our gear, our weapons are pretty standard for my AP Pyro builds. I like the Roaring Umbra with Kinetic Stomp and Fortress, because this thing has status power on it, and also Kinetic Stomp only has a 4-second cooldown. So you guys can get that off pretty often. You don't have to worry about weapon swapping really much at all. But in case everything's on cooldown, you guys do need to get a kill, you have the Anomaly with Fortress on here and Moaning Winds, so you swap to that and we'll proc Moaning Winds. Also, we have a Torment and Agony with Moaning Winds and Clip Combustion, so that's another thing you can swap to in case the Anomaly doesn't get the kill. With its Moaning Winds, you can swap to that as well. But otherwise, moving over to our armor mods, with the Helmet of the Akari, I run Fire Tsunami and then Burnt Out. And then on the chest piece of the Akari, I'm running Frequent Phaser, because this is going to combine with one of our other mods, Ashen Champion, because this, for every enemy we hit with Faser Beam, it's going to increase our anomaly power by 20% for 10 seconds. And with Frequent Phaser, you guys can have plenty of time to get that second Faser Beam off and have it have that anomaly bonus damage with it. And overall, it's pretty nasty. And when you guys are spamming Faser Beam, your damage is going to go through the roof. And then otherwise, I'm running Tidal Wave on here for the second Heat Wave. Now, we are only running 2 Heat Waves. What you could do is get rid of Frequent Phaser if you want to and put on the third Heat Wave if you just want to focus more on the debuffs and shoot less Faser Beams. And you guys can still technically get the Ashen Champion extra damage on your second Faser Beam if you're quick enough. You just have to use it immediately off cooldown. When you guys are at max cooldown, you'll have like 0.2, 0.3 seconds to spare right around there by the time Faser Beam goes off. I just like Frequent Phaser because it gives me a little bit more flexibility with that, and also I can just spam more Faser Beams, which is our main damage dealer. And then otherwise on the Akari pans, I keep Anomaly Echo on, and then I throw Captain Hunter on there. On our gloves, we're using the extra Thermal Bomb, and then also Branded for the debuff with Thermal Bomb. And then finally, moving down to the boots, like I said, we're using Ashen Champion, but then the other thing that I really recommend you guys using no matter what is Size Matters for Faser Beam. Faser Beam is so much better when you double that radius of it. It's going to help you guys clear way more enemies, and it's also just way easier to use. You're not going to really miss any of your Faser Beams, and I highly recommend Size Matters. Then otherwise, for your attributes on your gear, just run Anomaly Power, Cooldown, and Status Power. Status Power is a much over skill leech because Faser Beam does benefit from Status Power. The more Status Power you have, the more damage Faser Beam is going to do, and it benefits quite heavily from that. So I really do recommend that you guys are running Status Power. If the day ever comes where legendary armor pieces can get random attributes, you're going to look for that there as well. Unfortunately, with these Akari pieces right here, we are stuck with skill leech, and that's kind of unfortunate because we could get a lot more damage if those were status power. Then moving on over to our skill tree, this is going to be a middle tree build. You guys could start bottom and then go towards the middle, but I really do like this. It gives us a little bit more freedom to get a couple extra points that are really handy, like the anomalous lava. This is gonna help you guys survive a ton because enemies are just doing so much damage. This really does help a lot. It's always going to be active because of your heat waves. And then also, since we're getting all of the magma golem nodes, we're going to get distant flame for the increased anomaly power, since we're not really grabbing anything down here as much anymore. But then otherwise, I will be grabbing World Ablaze so we can get that little bit less cooldown on thermal bomb, so you guys can keep spamming that. But otherwise, everything else is pretty standard for a middle tree. We're also going to be grabbing Trial by Fire up here because that's just a lot of extra free damage. Otherwise, I'm going to show you guys real quick exactly how I play this build. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm always spamming my heat waves and my thermal bombs. Those two are always being procced. That way we can keep people burning, make sure we do not die. And as long as you just keep spamming them, basically when one comes off cooldown and you're done casting it, the other one's ready to go. And overall, it's just a really easy combo to do. And then otherwise, just use your thermal bombs and your phaser beams on whatever single target that you need to do, and you will instantly delete him right here. He is gone. We did almost 6 million damage, and we didn't even get Ashen Champion beforehand. So if there's like a really beefy enemy that you need to take out, use Faser Beam on a bunch of ads first, and then once it's back on cooldown, then use it on the main enemy that you need to kill, and you'll deal even more damage because, like I said, we're going to get up to 100% extra anomaly power, which is massive in terms of damage increase. Hopefully you guys have been able to tell how tanky we have been with this build as well. Now, when I have gone kind of bottom tree in the past, it is way less tanky. With this setup, I feel like I can kind of sit in the middle of a lot of enemies and just tank them to no end, which is really helpful when we're using Faser Beam. Right there, we just hit 11.6 million damage solo. In solo. So if you guys have two other debuff characters that you're running with, say your friends are running this build as well, or they're just running straight up debuff pyros, you guys are going to be hitting for tens, 20, 30, 40 million damage. It's pretty darn nasty how much damage you can actually put out with this setup. But right here, we're going to take out the group of elevator enemies, and then right there, just the heat waves take out everybody, and then a phaser beam on the elites, and they're gone. We're pretty much ready to move on, except for the riflemen who hide in the back. But yeah, this build is super easy to use, and it's just pretty darn gross how much damage you can actually put out per phaser beam. So I just hit abandon right after that elevator part, and here is our damage breakdown for just that little bit of chem plant. Almost 69 million damage total. Nice, but as you can see, almost 26 million damage with phaser beam alone. Our burns are going to be hitting very, very hard. With Ashen Champion boosting our anomaly power, the burns are just going to get so high. And honestly, on all the trash ads, if you just use like one or two of your heat waves or your thermal bombs, they're just going to burn to death. You can just leave them alone and let them die and move on to the next enemies. And yeah, as you can see, heat wave is up here as well. But yeah, overall, this build just really excels in both surviving and dealing insane amounts of damage. The buff to Faser Beam was huge. It is honestly the best skill now for the Pyromancer. That and Overheat are still going to be your best two, and it's just such a good time. I'm really excited to see what they do in the future for other buffs for other characters, or even more here on Pyro. But if you guys did enjoy this build video, like I said, make sure you leave a thumbs up on it to let me know. It really does help me out. Also consider subscribing for more Outriders content. Hopefully I'll see you guys over on Twitch. I'll be live at the time of posting this video. But anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya.